Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether mom's into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried and true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now you can save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with up to 50% off site-wide during Movement's Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com.
We made Trex.
Hello, and welcome back to We Are Starfleet. I'm your host, Mike Slammer, and thank you so much for tuning in. A big thank you, as always, for subscribing, following on the podcast player of choice. Don't hesitate to drop me an email, shout out some questions, or drop your theories on Season 3. You can reach me at wearestarfleetwmtr@gmail.com. Our last two episodes, we covered the entirety of Season 1 of Star Trek Discovery, the Klingon War, the Mirror Universe, the introduction of our main cast, and our lead starship. Now, historically speaking, first seasons of Star Trek were always kind of pretty rough around the edges, but I really think that Discovery bucked that trend. There was a story with a strong beginning, a strong middle, and a strong end, and when we came to the resolution, the final two episodes, the writers really did a great job in putting a tidy little bow on some of those plot threads, while still leaving things open for future writers to come in. But what is most important is that they set themselves up for a second season in a big, big way. At the close of the Season 1 finale, they brought in the legendary USS Enterprise with Captain Christopher Pike sending a distress signal. So with me today is a fellow We Made Trek's crew member, Ian Buckley. Ian, our mission is to recap Season 2, but first and foremost, let's talk about you. How did it feel when Season 1 closed and the Enterprise came on screen?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, thank you for having me aboard, Captain. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm always happy to talk Trek. My fandom for Star Trek definitely goes back to the original series. My dad watched the original series when it was airing, and for as far back as I can remember, reruns and like videotapes that we pick up from the local video store of those VHS tapes that would have like 2 episodes a piece on them. We'd at the end of the week we'd get like 4 or 5 of them, bring them home, and by the end of the weekend I was done with half a season. That was probably ages 3, 4, like I said, like basically one of my earliest movie memories is watching Wrath of Khan with my family. So for me, seeing that ship pop up on the screen, warping into the Season 1 finale of Discovery, it blew my goddamn mind. I mean, that ship's gorgeous. I think that the Enterprise that they've put together for Discovery and now Strange New Worlds is probably my favorite of the modern era. Sort of like, comparing it to like the JJ, that design's fine. I like that fine, but this is my new favorite of the kind of the modern era of Trek. I think my favorite of the model era is probably the 1701A.
Yeah, same. For me personally, it's the 1701A.
Yeah.
There's a lot of controversy surrounding Starship nerds like ourselves, where it's like, okay, but the original Constitution or the refit Constitution, the Model A, are we talking about? Yeah, it's great.
It's for sure the A.
It's got to be the A, right?
We only got that for 2.1 movies, basically, right? It's a shame.
It really is. And I got to say, the Enterprise B, the Excelsior class, that's a strong contender. There's something about those very sleek lines that I really enjoy.
I think the Excelsior class is one of those that I have a lot of respect for it, especially for its place in Star Trek lore, but the design just never really did it for me. Honestly,
really?
Like of the Enterprises, the C is probably like, I'll take the C over the B. I'll take the ambassador class over the class myself.
Do you ever think that we'll get a series that kind of showcases the C a little bit?
If not the C, I certainly wouldn't mind seeing the class of ship pop up now and again. I mean, we really don't see it much.
We really don't.
It'd be cool to see some ambassadors pop up here and there. But yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about End of the B. Like, I'm still curious about what that crew went through. I mean, we don't know anything about that era of Trek, really. And we know more about what happened to the sea, but we don't know anything about what happened before that.
Yeah, I hear that there's the novel verse a little bit. There are a few stories that
which I confess I've not dived into.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Some of the next 10 books, but
And a lot of those books, they take the characters in different directions that they would normally go in.
Very different directions.
And they place the crew in like ridiculous situations. And that's still the case today. Even some of the more modern novels that come out, you're like, would the characters really do that? I don't think so.
Sure.
But
sure.
But yeah, so we're going to move into season 2, and there's a few key points that I've personally noticed that separate it from season 1, aside from the fact that obviously it's a continuing story. First, all of the ensemble characters on the bridge of the Discovery get FaceTime with the camera. So we learn more about the communications officer, Bryce, the tactical officer, Reese, Owashikan, and Detmer at the helm. So we really get a chance to know the bridge crew and their capacities as Starfleet officers as the episodes progress. There's a beautiful moments with each of them, on away missions, going through different science, in the ready room, talking with Captain Pike as they work out different issues. There's that scene on the elevator with the Saurian in episode 1 when he's got a cold, he's not feeling well, and he sneezes. So there's definitely a bit of an enlightened crew moment, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but just having names was a big deal. When Pike does the roll call around the bridge, like, I'm pretty sure that was the first time I heard Bryce's name, or at least in more than just passing. And even though for many of those characters, we didn't learn much more than their names this season, I knew their names at the end, which was more than I could say for season 1. Much as I enjoyed season 1, it was a little bit of an adjustment to basically have an largely anonymous bridge crew.
That's true. We definitely got a nice background on each of the characters. Yeah. And I think it's partly a response to some criticisms that the first season received.
Sure.
And it does speak to the fact that the writers and the producers of Discovery are actually out there listening to the fans and taking the feedback. And, the multitude of internet forums that lit up like crazy, it's hard to ignore the Trek fan base. We're a very vocal group. Yeah. Secondly, the show makes it a point to give more poignancy to the friendships of the crew members. In episode 3, for example, Michael helps Tilly with the ghost problem. And what I really liked about it, it was a quiet, reserved scene, and it really reminded me of The Next Generation, where a lot of the characters on the Enterprise D, they had different friendships. There was Geordi and Data, there was Data and Worf, there was Geordi and Wesley, all these different intertwining relationships, and they would lean on each other. Yeah. And we saw some of that in this season, which is really great, because you don't have a true Starship crew without those friendships and those different partnerships that came together to solve the problems. If someone was in trouble, they weren't dismissed out of hand, called crazy, or ostracized. They were taken seriously, and the team worked to help that person resolve their issue. And we see this happen again and again throughout the season.
Absolutely. I mean, that scene alone is pure Star Trek values. I mean, you have a character who is having an experience that is so far beyond what any of us could reasonably be expected to deal with and comprehend, and she's having a very understandable reaction. And, Michael displays incredible compassion and intelligence and sits her down, logically walks her through why she's not going nuts. she believes her,
Mm-hmm.
and they go from there. They come up with a plan. It's pure Star Trek. Even though it's a quiet scene and there aren't phasers going off, that is a really good distillation of Star Trek in that scene.
Yeah, I loved it. Was there anything in season 2 that really struck you?
I think in terms of theme, there's definitely a strong undercurrent of, the idea of faith, and not blind faith. That's the thing I appreciate about it, because I'm about as far from a religious person as you can get. And I really appreciated that, this theme of faith that was weaved throughout the season was dealt with in a really kind of logical way. And that comes to kind of a culmination at the end with Burnham and Spock having that conversation about, you're asking me to take a leap of faith. But it's a leap of faith that makes sense based on all the evidence that has led them to this point. It's not blind faith. They're not doing it because someone else told them to, and that's all the justification they need. It's not empty-headed or mindless. It's this very intentional, very thoughtful, faith that's based on the experience that they have with their peers, with their colleagues, with their friends.
Yeah. And, to bring that kind of full circle here, the entire season focuses on a protagonist that is called throughout the show the Red Angel.
Yeah.
So
right.
Faith is a
hard to avoid the imagery there. Yeah.
It really is. And what struck me was watching the season was not just the imagery and the themes, but also the characters. Captain Pike, for example, in New Eden, when he lands on the planet, he understands the faith of these people who have come together and all combined all of Earth's religions into one religion. And he inherently understands and respects it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, you get it right away. He clearly has a little bit more firsthand experience with just being in a church. I mean, he asks them, have you guys even been in a church? And they both basically say, Burnham's I read about him in a book, and OO is nope, we were atheists. And Luddites have no experience inside a church.
Right.
So he was able to speak from that depth of firsthand personal experience.
Yep. So season 2 starts with the episode Brother, where we have, it picks up right where season 1 leaves off, with the Discovery en route to Vulcan to pick up its new captain. Boom, distress signal comes in, priority 1, beep, 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 beep. Here comes Captain Christopher Pike on the beautiful, gorgeous USS Enterprise. And we kick off season 2 in a fast-paced, action-packed kind of a way.
Yeah, we're right into it.
Yep. Right away, we discover that there are these signals, and Pike has to take emergency command of the Discovery because the Enterprise is knocked out of commission. Wherever it was, I read the book, the Enterprise War, so I do know where it came from. I don't think it has a whole lot of bearing on the particular episode.
Sure.
Pretty decent book, interesting story, interesting science fiction involved. Not necessarily the greatest Star Trek book I've ever read in my life. But good story. It's fun.
Fair enough.
So the USS Discovery is now under emergency command by Captain Pike. There are 6 of these great signals that have appeared. There are 7 red signals that appear. And the Enterprise was investigating when it was damaged. So 6 of the signals have disappeared. And there's only 1 signal left. And the Discovery has to jump via the spore drive to that location. Actually, I'm sorry. They don't jump via. Yeah. You're right. They actually go under warp to the first location.
Yes,
and they just
still not happy enough to jump anywhere.
Right.
Except maybe into a sun.
And they discover the wreckage of the USS Hiawatha, which was shot down by the Klingons, and it's in this asteroid field, and it's under heavy duress and gravitational pull as the asteroids are being pulled into a gas giant. And that's kind of where we kick off. There's great action sequences. We have some classic away mission action.
Good to see an away mission right off the bat. We didn't see a ton of those in season 1, and we have 2 of them in the first 2 episodes of season 2.
Yeah, it's a great callback with the captain taking it upon himself to go on the away mission, take command. He has Commander Burnham with him.
Yeah.
He has his own science officer, which we're going to get into in a minute, and the Barzan, Commander Nan, his tactical officer.
Nan, right. Yeah.
And great re-envisioning of the Barzans. I remember in Next Generation with Wesley, they had the Barzan, and he had this giant contraption, and it was just this huge thing in front of his face and like pushing gaseous fumes, to help him breathe. And here they kind of reworked a little bit, made it slimmer, more clean. Yeah. So it was a nice reworking and a way to introduce a classic alien character.
Yeah, good call. This episode had a lot of introductions. Obviously, Captain Pike himself, but also Jet Reno, who I think is awesome. I love Jet Reno.
Yeah, they rescue Jet Reno off of the USS Hiawatha, and she's actually the chief, or she's an engineer. I can't recall.
Yeah, she's an engineer.
She's the chief engineer, but she managed to save over a dozen officers on board the Hiawatha and keep them alive, even though they were near death through feats of engineering, basically. And she winds up joining Discovery, which is a fantastic addition to the crew. Her snark and her attitude plays off really well with
Absolutely.
Stamets.
I'm really excited to see her in season 3, which we know she's going to be in.
Yeah, from what I understand, Tig Notaro, who plays Jet Reno, was supposed to be just like a cameo, essentially, like maybe 1 or 2 episodes, but they love the dynamic so much that they had to bring her in.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's a smaller encapsulation of kind of the response to Pike, Spock, number 1, and the new Enterprise. I mean, right after, not.
Did you know that most vitamin D3 supplements come from sheep's wool? I'm Kat, founder of Ritual. We're making traceability the new standard for the supplement industry. When I was pregnant, I couldn't find a multivitamin I could trust, so I created my own. Ours is made traceable, third-party tested, and clean label project certified. Oh, and our vitamin D3? It comes from sustainably harvested lichen from England, not sheep. Trace for yourself with 25% off at ritual.com/podcast.
When you make decisions for your company, you always look for the no-brainers. And if you have a lot of mailing and shipping to do, Stamps.com is the ultimate no-brainer. It streamlines your process to make your business more efficient, which makes you less busy. Mail checks, invoices, legal documents, books, and everything you need to keep your business running with Stamps.com. Seamlessly connect with every major marketplace and shopping cart if you sell online. Schedule package pickups through the dashboard and automatically see your cheapest and fastest shipping options from different carriers, with rates up to 89% off USPS and UPS rates. And with the Stamps.com mobile app, you can take care of mailing and shipping wherever you are, even on the go. Make the same no-brainer decision as over 1 million other business decision makers with Stamps.com. Sign up at Stamps.com with code PROGRAM for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. That's Stamps.com, code PROGRAM.
Even after the season ended, fans were clamoring for more Pike, more Spock, more number 1, and more Enterprise. And we got it. We're getting it.
Just, they always say, if you don't ask, you don't get fed.
Right. Yeah.
So Jet Reno, she's got all these survivors of the crew. They're able to beam most of them off via the pattern enhancers and the transporter room. And what's interesting, and another thing that I really loved about the season, there's a lot of science, a lot of math. And even though it's classic Star Trek science, where, reverse the polarity, some kind of, but they do make it a point to talk about it. And and the characters are clearly solving problems.
Right. That's the thing. It doesn't matter whether the exact language is tracking one-to-one with what the real science is. Mm-hmm. It's the idea of, hey, there's a problem that we're working to solve using these tools, which do actually exist in the real world, and hopefully inspiring people to use them.
How many scientists have actually credited the original series for cellular devices and iPads? Right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
Episode 1, Also introduces us to the concept of the Red Angel. Michael Burnham is left behind when there's a great gravity shift on the asteroid, and as the asteroid is pivoting towards its to be exploded, she winds up getting injured, and she's got this giant piece of asteroid sticking through her abdomen. And while she's waiting to be rescued, she has this vision. And it's the Red Angel who comes down, and Michael Burnham. She's under duress. She's got massive trauma and internal bleeding, and could easily be pushed away as a hallucination. But it's the Red Angel, and then Captain Pike beams in and rescues her, which I also think was a little thematically important to show Captain Pike being the one to beam in the image of the Angel.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is a strong emphasis on his sort of heroism and almost purity. I mean, when Admiral Cornwell is speaking much later in the season about, kind of why they kept him out of the war, she basically makes him out to be a saint, and nothing we see on screen contradicts that. We all know Pike is amazing. We love him even more now that we've seen this entire season of Discovery. So yeah, it does seem right in line with that kind of through line of Pike is special. He's something special.
Yep. He, you know what? Let's talk about Captain Christopher Pike in a moment. The close of episode 1 is where we discover that Spock is not on board the Enterprise. He has taken personal leave to deal with a situation that we don't quite know what it is yet. Commander Burnham beams over to the Enterprise and goes to Spock's quarters and goes through his personal log, which is a kind of a scary breach of privacy. Right. Burnham, come on, I know he's your brother and all, but
right,
maybe I don't know. So, and she discovers that he's actually been having these nightmares of the signals, and he's been trying to parse it out. And she recalls from her childhood when she first met Spock that he was drawing these images on this drawing pad, and it turns out he's been visited by these visions of the signals. And now we learned that there's definitely some kind of a tie-in between everything that's been going on.
Yeah, it's all connected.
So, Captain Pike, he is the quintessential starship captain.
Yeah.
We meet him in episode 1. He brings weight, he brings gravitas, and this air of collaboration and transparency to the Bridge of Discovery that it was so sorely lacking. And remember, they had just gotten rid of Captain Lorca.
Yeah, I mean, it like just happened to these characters. Like we so much happens in season 2 after so much has happened in season 1. It's easy to lose track. But yeah, like you said, season 2 doesn't skip a beat. It goes right into it. So that this just happened with Lorca. They all remember it like it was yesterday because to them it was.
Yep. Pike does the roll call on the bridge, and he learns everyone's names. And he wants to know who he's flying with, and he introduces himself. He puts his record up on the screen, and he points out his own failures. He points out his own mistakes, and he says, he's like, I know what you guys just went through. I'm not Lorca.
Right.
It's a great moment, and honestly, that's actually cues up a subject matter for another podcast episode I'm going to be doing, which is going to focus on the captain's chair a little bit, because Discovery goes through numerous different captains in such a short time. Between Lorca, you have Pike, and I kind of say, like, even Commander Saru, he shows promise. And
for sure. He spent enough time in that chair in season 2 that, I mean, I'm going to be on record as like Saru 2020, like the, let's make him captain in season 3. That's, obviously without having seen how season 3 unfolds, but he's great.
He's the right person for the chair. Throughout this season, Saru grows into almost the exact image of a Starfleet officer, just like Pike. He's confident, he's courageous, he's become fearless. Once he goes through his transformation, forget it. You can't stop.
He goes through a literal evolution.
Literally evolution at play. Yeah. It's wonderful. And that brings us to episode 2, New Eden, which is directed by Star Trek alumni Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker himself. Or, I'm sorry, Captain Riker.
Now Captain, yes.
Yes. New Eden is all about the second signal. It appears over this planet, and this is where the Discovery uses its spore drive to jump away to get to the signal to investigate, and we find a Class M planet with a small colony of humans.
Yeah, this one is classic Trek. I mean, how could it not be? It's a population from Earth circa like mid 21st century, transported 50,000 light years away, dropped on another planet that's habitable, and just left alone for a couple hundred years. I mean, it is. I mean, that sort of scenario alone pops up in the original series like more than once in 3 seasons.
Oh yeah. You hit the nail on the head. This is classic Star Trek episode, and I love that once we get away from the opening, the first episode of the season, and we get through a lot of action, we get through all the character introduction, boom, we're dropped onto a Class M planet.
Yeah.
And, here's a colony of humans who have molded all these different religions from Earth into their own. There is the General Order number 1, the Prime Directive, do not interfere with their development. Captain Pike, before they beam down on this away mission, he says clearly we can't interfere. And when they arrive, they dress up like they're traders from, the quote unquote Northern Territory,
right.
And they're just visiting. They came down, they were doing their pilgrimage. And it's all to discover, like, why did the signal lead us here? Like, what's going on? Is there something wrong? Well, it turns out that there's a distress signal emanating from a soldier's helmet from the mid-21st century. And one of the colonists had been keeping that technology running and broadcasting via radio. So they were almost brought down there on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like, we have this theme of being kind of guided. And of course, at the end of the season, we find out that that's literally true. Of course, that is why we have the sensation they are literally being guided to each of these places. But yeah, it definitely, like, you can tell that it scratches some sort of itch for Pike, because he starts talking about feeling like there's some sort of guiding purpose here, and it's hard not to see why he would think that.
During the away mission, there is a extinction level radiation shower approaching. So the signal brought the Discovery here. And on board the Discovery, Tilly had managed to capture a piece of the asteroid, one of the dark matter asteroids from the asteroid belt in episode 1. And she actually develops this plan on board the Discovery while communications are down. Again, classic Star Trek. You can't get through the radiation shower.
Right.
So the starship has to solve its own problem while the away team is solving their own problem.
Yeah. A plot, B plot.
A plot, B plot. And what I loved about Ensign Tilly in season 1, it carries over to season 2. She's smart, she's quick, she's innocent, she's naive, she's fun. She brings in this great dynamic.
I love Tilly. I think when she's at her best in this season and in season 1, she just jumps off the screen. She's luminous. She's fantastic. And Mary Wiseman, the actress who plays her, is as well, of course.
Yeah, she's a bright star on the Discovery.
Yeah.
Sean in episode 1 of the podcast had mentioned that she reminds him of Wesley Crusher. Except here we have someone who's actually command training. She's in the command training program, and she deserves to be on board the ship. She's earned the right to be there. She's not just a passenger who happens to show promise.
Yeah, she's not the chief medical officer's kid.
There's no nepotism on play here.
Yeah.
So it's Tilly's idea to use this dark matter asteroid, which has its own gravitational field. And they actually, one of the coolest Starship sequences I've seen, Lieutenant Detmer actually does a donut in a starship to whip the asteroid out of its shuttle bay because they're holding this dark matter asteroid in the shuttle bay. They whip it out, and it pulls all this radiation to follow it. So they save the planet from this radiation shower that would have caused an extinction level event on that planet, saving the colony, saving the away team without the away team knowing any of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it immediately when that happens, you sort of see the pieces fall into place of like, oh yeah, this is clearly being directed by someone or something, because the thing that they got in the last, at the last signal location is the thing that they needed to save everyone in this episode.
Yeah. And Tilly comes up with this idea, not exactly by herself. So she's in the shuttle bay of Discovery, and she's doing some research on this dark matter asteroid, and she happens to pull a piece of it into a little cage device. And as she does this, the asteroid reacts in not a great manner and produces a pulse that knocks Tilly off her feet and flies her across shuttle bay. She cracks her head and winds up in sick bay. She wakes up in sick bay. She's being, taken care of. And there is another Discovery crew person there by the name of May Ahern, who isn't exactly all there. She appears to Tilly, and, she gives Tilly the idea of how to work out getting the asteroid out of the shuttle bay and how to get rid of this radiation shower. So your thoughts on what exactly transpired with May Ahern when we first met her?
Oh, when she first popped up, yeah. I honestly accepted it at face value that maybe she was a crew person. Right? Like we're only the second episode in. Like this could be
new characters. New
we've already met like a few people now. Like why not this? Why not May? Why not her?
Why not?
And then the moment that it went, oh, never mind, she's definitely in this person's head. It was when she pops up when the lift doors are closing, when Tilly's leaving the bridge.
Yep.
And and then May's all of a sudden right there. It's like, oh no, this is some weird ghost stuff going on. This is not this is not a real person. This is not what's happening.
Yep. I really liked how they wrote May in as a legit crew member and then pulled that rug right out from
you. You buy it. You buy it first.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were, maybe there were subtle clues that I missed, but I watched it 3 times. I don't think I think at first you're meant to take it at face value.
I certainly did. The only clue to me was when we first meet May and she gives Tilly the idea. Tilly runs out of sickbay in her medical gown. And when Tilly runs out, the camera swings around to focus on Tilly as she's running back and forth through the hall. So you see her run twice. It's supposed to be kind of a comical moment, but May just stands there. And she just stands there. Like if you were a crew member, you would just run right after her and be like, I'm helping you, But May just stands there and watches this transpire.
It's the good kind of clue that is really only a clue when you look back and say, wait a minute, why did that character do it? Yeah, I like that.
So really clever stuff, showrunners. Really clever.
Almost like they know what they're doing.
Oh, man. So Pike is able to... Pike and the away team, they get back to Discovery after, hold on, let me back up. So there's a scientist. He's down on the planet's surface.
Yeah.
He is convinced that they did not arrive via a godlike angelic being.
Right.
He believes in technology. He believes in rational thought.
Yeah.
So to him, he's been broadcasting this radio signal. 3 strangers suddenly appear. They happen to know things. They seem kind of, knowledgeable. They're not immediately praying or being religious or anything. So he's suspicious. Turns out his suspicion is right. He catches them in the basement of the church looking at the technology and looking for the helmet camera. And the helmet camera is what is actually broadcasting the signal. So they wind up getting the helmet camera only after trading a power cell. So Pike has to basically tell the scientist, yes, we come from the stars. And he gives it all away. It's truly a great moment to see, the scientist be vindicated in everything that he believes in. And he also understands that he can't go with them. he understands that their world must develop the way that it must, because they're under that General Order 1, even though, yes, they are human.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
And he understands. He willingly gives Pike the helmet. He shuts down the radio transmission, forever ending that distress signal. But he's comforted with the knowledge that humans have made it to the stars. I think it's a great moment. Pike delivers an excellent, I'm very sorry I can't take you with us type speech. And classic Star Trek all the way through and through.
It is. It does remind you of First Contact, the episode in Next Gen. They do take that scientist at the end of that one. So maybe the sort of Federation or Starfleet interpretation of how to apply that rule sort of evolves. Or maybe Picard's just a different captain and he makes a different call. But it's a classic Star Trek conundrum because you can argue in good faith both sides of it, and you have honest, good people can disagree about whether or not Pike made the right call. But it's classic Star Trek through and through.
Yeah. Directed by Jonathan Frakes. It should come as no surprise that the episode New Eden is highly rated on IMDb. It's touted as a fan favorite of all the Discovery episodes. And I don't know. I can't say that it's my favorite, but it's definitely top 3.
Yeah, it's a good one. And we're presumably going to return to this setting in season 3. I mean, it's I believe where Burnham was going, right?
They make it a point. It's called, the planet is Terra Elysium, and it exists for a purpose. It's actually the planet that the Red Angel is based off of in the future.
Right. And it'll be curious to see if this society remains intact over the next 1,000 years, what the consequences of reappearing in front of that culture is going to be.
Yep. So episode 3, Point of Light, this reintroduces the Klingons. And man, I got a lot of feelings about the Klingons in this season. The ending of this episode was just, oh man, I was so pumped up. The fight in the corridor, all the Klingons fighting each other, and
fight's badass.
It's great. Man, dude, the fight choreography in the show.
Great. It's so much better than Double Fists. Look, don't get me wrong. I love Captain Kirk's Double Fist. I love Arena. That episode's amazing. He can double fist his enemies to its heart's content. But I'm so glad that that's in the past. I'm so glad that we have actual competent, pleasant to watch and not in a kind of tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic way. Action scenes. It's great.
Yeah. And the Klingons are fierce. And to your point about the double fist, though, blink and you miss it, but that move is incorporated when some of the Klingons are fighting each other. And it's one of those things where you can't just help but be like, they did it.
Yeah, they did it. They snuck one in. Fantastic. As they should have. Let's be clear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all these little callbacks.
Yeah. It's clear these people love Star Trek.
The whole show is just made with love. And that's why I love it. I got to be honest. It's there. It's there. Episode 3, it kind of starts tying in some of the more the tendrils of the plot. Starts bringing in these characters. So we have over on Kronos, we have the Klingons. You see the L'Rell, she's taken the chancellorship. She's united all of Klingon into one empire, and clearly, not every Klingon is happy about this. They don't want this person, this Klingon, to be in charge. They want control. They want the power because, of course, there's always power struggles, right? Yeah. So Ash Tyler, hello Ash, he's back. Remember now, he is the Klingon that was grafted into a Starfleet prisoner of war. So Ash Tyler has this dual personality, identity crisis. He doesn't know who he is. He's going through this weird transformational period of his own self. And this theme of duality presents itself again and again in Discovery.
Yeah. And he's, at this point, technically more Ash than Voq, but he's got all the memories and he's got a lot of lingering kind of impressions, flashes, like sort of these flashes of feeling, these flashes of memory, these flashes of emotion that impact his consciousness and his ability to interact with L'Rell, but also just people in general.
Yeah. That's a great point. He's still struggling. And he's still dealing with the PTSD of everything involved. On top of that, his relationship with Michael Burnham is a key point to the plot. So Ash Tyler, he makes a phone call to Burnham because he wants the Discovery to know, he wants Starfleet to know, hey, listen, the Chancellor's having some problems over here. Klingons don't really like her. There's a lot of infighting going on. We don't know how this is going to play out. Turns out one of the other Klingon house leaders had a listening device planted in like this paint that he had on his face. Yeah. And, it was all a gambit to get the Chancellor to wipe the paint off his face, when they were yelling at each other. Because it's important to note that all the Klingon great houses were separate. And L'Rell brought them all together and united them. So one of her things that she did was to eliminate the idea of these house identities when they were in the, I don't even know what to call the Chancellor's throne room, her parliament.
Yeah,
her
not sure what you would call it.
Her, she refers to herself, the audience chamber. Yeah. So, and initially all the Klingons would wear war paint, essentially, to designate who they were as, like, I'm the leader of House Core, and I'm the leader of House Cole. But she unites them, and he's got the paint on his face, he's got these nanites, a listening device, and he winds up learning that L'Rell and Voq had a child. And L'Rell was hiding this child even from Ash Tyler. Understandably, he's already going through a lot. It's not really his child, it's Voq's child, but at the same time, he's got Voq in his subconscious, so how does that all play in? So Ash Tyler realizes he has a child, things aren't going well on Kronos, something needs to happen, right? So in comes a new protagonist that is not new, but I guess, well, she's not a new character. I don't really know how to describe her because she's not a good guy either. But no. Captain Philippa Georgiou is back, right? And she's working for Section 31. She's got the black badge.
Yeah, she sure does. Lady Space Hitler is back. It is pretty wild. Her entrance is pretty spectacular. Hard to imagine making a more spectacular entrance than the one she makes. And apparently she's got this technology at her disposal provided by Section 31 that is just absolutely nuts and nothing we've ever seen anyone from Starfleet or really any other race or power use.
Yeah, so this is our first time meeting Section 31, kind of, I guess, in the flesh. They were alluded to back in Season 1.
Some black badges were evident early on, yeah.
Right. They made it a point. The camera kind of swung in and focused on the black badge, and one of the prisoners was like, "Oh, I've never seen a black badge before. What's that mean?" Blah.
Yeah.
And here it comes back, and they do make it a point to show the black badge several times as a callback. So Section 31, we've always kind of known to be the shady. They operate in the gray area. They're like Starfleet's intelligence organization, but at the same time, they're not above doing what must need be done. So at the end of the episode, we learn that Philippa Georgiou, who is the Empress from the Terran universe, the Terran Empire in the Mirror universe, she's part of Section 31 now. And everybody in Section 31 knows it. It's not a secret. So here's this big, big secret that's not a secret, which I think is kind of Section 31's motto, right? Like, hey, we're a secret, but we're not a secret.
Right. Especially, I mean, seemingly in this era, I mean, at least people at the sort of the level of Pike and Cornwell seem very kind of, they seem like they've been read into Section 31's a thing. Mm-hmm. It exists. It operates kind of on the margins. This is their mission. This is what they do. Give them as much as you can whenever they ask for it, that kind of thing. Much more so than in the kind of DS9 era Section 31 we see, where nobody has heard of these people, not Cisco, nobody's heard of these people, not even rumors of these people.
Right. So it's an interesting takeaway. They're a little bit more out there in the open, more working, and I guess it doesn't really particularly matter, but in the Kelvinverse, Section 31 is also an intelligence organization that works pretty openly in Starfleet. So there is some precedent in that particular
this era of Starfleet. They're operating a little more openly.
Right. It's just, what they do, everything is classified. Everything's classified.
Sure. It's like, the CIA, the NSA exist. Even though you obviously don't know the details of their day-to-day operations.
Exactly. So, great episode, bringing back the Klingons, reintroducing Philippa Georgiou as a new antagonist that is going to be ongoing. She will appear in Season 3. Depending on, the production schedule and, quarantine and COVID-19 and all that, she's got her own show coming out too with Section 31.
Do you have feelings or thoughts about the Section 31 show and the possibility of it existing?
I like many new Star Trek shows that have been announced. So I am tentatively optimistic. And what I mean by that is I am concerned with the overall flooding of Star Trek content into the culture, so to speak, and people just getting kind of tired of it, treading same ground. Like how many stories can we really tell? I'm very excited for Lower Decks. I think that's a phenomenal concept, and I love that it's going to be animated. But a Section 31 show, it's like, well, what can it really talk about? Like, what kind of top secret missions are we going to learn about,
Yeah, I suppose there's, probably room to explore the ethics of operating on the margins like they seem to do. It's an interesting line to toe. When you sort of take a step back, particularly in this cultural moment we're in right now, and think about the ethical consequence of giving a show, giving someone like Philippa Georgiou, Empress Georgiou, from the Mirror universe, who has literally admitted to genocide in this season
multiple times,
more than once. It's an interesting line they're going to have to toe with making her a compelling Star Trek hero. Can she be a hero in a proper classical Star Trek sense? I have my doubts, as interested as I am to see what they come up with.
Similarly, Strange New Worlds, which I'm very excited about. They're bringing back Captain Pike, Lieutenant Spock, and Number One. And they're bringing back all those characters. They're bringing back the Enterprise, and it's going to be more of an optimistic style classic Star Trek show. And again, tentatively optimistic. And here's why. Because number one, no pun intended, the show premise, the Enterprise with three main characters, has already been done. And that's the original series. So why are we going to be retreading that same ground? How many more planets, how many more invisible space hands and, giant ship eating, doomsday machines are we going to meet? And I want these characters back on screen. I love them so much, but I don't want them to be shoehorned into, basically caricatures of themselves.
Sure, I hear that. I mean, I think at least with Strange New Worlds, there's an opportunity to, and I hope they take us, that they take the opportunity to do this, but to get a little weird with things, like in a live action setting. I think Lower Decks we're going to have a lot of weird, because you're sort of freed up by, it's animated, it's comedy, it's got a little bit of a different tone. Like, you can just throw whatever you want up on the screen. I think live action shows, especially in Star Trek, are a little bit more grounded. But yeah, I'd love to see, certainly not a retread of the original series, but yeah, let's get weird again. Let's see some weird stuff on different planets and interact with cultures we have nothing in common with whatsoever, and see how that goes. Especially with that crew. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, well said. Well said. The weird, bring back the weirdness.
Yeah,
society's always been a little weird.
Yeah, I don't know how much of the original of an original series fan you are, but like, that show's weird. It's really weird. It's all canon, so I guess we all have to count it. But they go to a planet with witches on it at one point. I mean, like, it's a weird show. I love it to pieces, but I wouldn't mind if like a little bit of that strange in Strange New Worlds came to the fore.
Agreed. I would love to revisit the idea of the Greek gods escaping Earth because humans decided to stop worshiping them. So they went out to the stars.
They're just hanging out on a planet.
Gods again. Yeah, they're just
It's
hanging
great.
out. Yeah.
They were actually aliens. The Greek gods were real. They were aliens. They left.
Were aliens. Oh, An Obol for Sharon is episode 4, and this is where I think Discovery kind of starts to put the foot on the gas a little bit in terms of the plot. So the episode centers around a giant sphere with its own gravitational pull. And as Discovery is warping to catch up with Spock, because Spock is in a shuttle, he's escaped a psychiatric facility, and Discovery has its warp trail. So we're racing there to get to Spock. And this sphere pulls Discovery out of warp and just, freezes it. Can't move, can't go nowhere. Thrusters are out, impulse engines won't work. Warp is out of the question.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
So as soon as the sphere starts to interface with Discovery, all the systems just start to crash. And the universal translator is totally out. And everyone starts talking to each other in different voices and different languages. And this was the first time I can remember in Star Trek, besides Star Trek Beyond, where they actually focused on the universal translator being used. And it was such a cool moment to see this piece of technology that Star Trek has always taken for granted, that everyone just understands each other. How come this Romulan that I've never met before, he is automatically speaking Federation Standard, which is English, right?
Right.
Well, here we have our answer. The computer systems are constantly evolving, and they're constantly machine learning, I should say. And they are programmed with all these different languages, and they figure out the syntax and the verbs and the nouns, and they connect everything so that two individuals of different races can speak to each other for the first time and clearly understand each other. Brilliant piece of technology.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I really appreciated about Enterprise, which I actually only watched for the first time after Discovery Season 2 had aired. And I liked that kind of running thread of, oh, yeah, this piece of equipment, we're still kind of figuring out how it works. We're still building as we go.
Yeah.
You know, we're still on the fly. Like, hey, we're trying to figure this thing out with the Klingons, and the universal translator is crap. Like, just do it, man. You know, kind of like just do it like on your own. Do it in your head, kind of like what Saru was asked to do here.
Yeah, and Saru is the only one on the starship who has learned any other language. So he jumps in and he's able to repair the translator, so at least everyone can start talking to each other again. Yeah. And over the course of the episode, it is revealed that the sphere is actually transmitting data. It's pure. They mentioned like petabytes worth of data.
Yeah.
And it's taking up the ship's computers like crazy. It's just constantly coming in and streaming in. And all this data is basically its life story. And the sphere was at one time a living semi-organic creature, and it has this consciousness about it, and it knows that it's dying. So it's trying to get as much of its life story onto the Discovery as possible so its story can continue. And it hasn't died for nothing. And as a result of this happening, at the same time, the ship is under duress. You know, systems are failing. They have to eventually shut down the Discovery, allow the sphere to transfer all its data. And then the moment it's done, the sphere explodes, but manages to reverse the polarity of its shielding at the very last second.
Very convenient.
Or they reverse the fate.
When that happens.
And it manages to push the Discovery away. So even though that the sphere, which is the size of a planet, is, internally combusting and collapsing in on itself, which will produce this massive energy wave and destroy the Discovery, and instead pushes it away and saves it at the very last second. So the crew realizes that it was a benevolent and well-intentioned, if somewhat unfortunate, and they were also able to keep Spock's shuttle warp trail in view, so they're still able to complete their mission. So now they've got this petabytes worth of data from the sphere. And throughout this whole thing, Saru is undergoing his evolution.
Yeah, Saru's evolution's, I think, the emotional core of the episode, by far. Not I think.
Yeah.
It is for sure the emotional core of the episode. I mean, I'll be honest, the first time I watched this, I didn't know for sure that Saru wasn't going to just die. I mean, they had pulled the rug out from under us a couple of times. I thought that the odds of them doing that to Saru were, especially in season 2, episode 4, were highly unlikely. But I'll tell you, while I was in the episode, I was kind of swept along in it too. It was I found it very effective, and I thought that the step forward that they were taking with the character here, I was a really big fan of it, and I was really happy to see them continue that throughout the rest of the season, which is something that I think Deep Space Nine did more of. But honestly, that's one of the advantages of having this kind of heavy serialization in your storytelling, is you're able to really reward the audience by having these moments and then having them pay off for the rest of the series.
Yeah, the Saru's evolution and his loss of the threat ganglia was a great storytelling moment for Discovery writers to show that you can not only overcome your own fear and your own inhibitions, but you can excel and succeed in ways unimaginable.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see. Well, we can talk about it when we get to that episode, but the implications of kind of what this culture, what this species has been put through unjustly at the hands of the Ba'ul, and how he responds to that revelation is, again, just continues his growth as a character, and it's all really, again, fundamental Star Trek values.
Yes. And along with fundamental Star Trek values, we also get some cool alien stuff happening.
Absolutely.
Down in engineering in the spore drive. So the Ghost of May Ahern attached to Tilly comes back. Well, she never left, as it turns out. And it's important to note that this ghost is actually a remnant from season 1. So when the Discovery...
That glowing fleck that landed on her shoulder.
That's it. So when Discovery managed to come back to the Prime universe, they went through the mycelial network, and some of the mycelial network stayed aboard the ship. And a little green fleck landed, and the camera focused in on it. And I remember everyone being like, oh my gosh, what could that be? Right. What is it? Why did they focus on it? That means something. Here we go. Well, here it is. We have this parasite, this ghost, this hallucination of May Ahern, and she winds up actually trying to communicate to Commander Stamets. She wants to talk to Stamets. The whole plot surrounding the mycelial network, she's actually a resident of the network, and she has manifested herself into an image that Tilly would recognize and would want to help.
Right.
So, she grabbed a piece from Tilly's memory. Of course, it's an alien, fungi, so what's it really know of humans' memories? And it manifests itself, tries to talk to Tilly, fails. Commander Stamets, he grabs this giant, science-y tractor beam style thing and sucks the spore out of her.
Yeah.
They manage to isolate it, but it gets loose. It gets back on the Tilly, and now it has manifested itself into a cocoon, and it swallows Tilly up.
Right. Yeah.
And the episode closes with Tilly being gone. She's gone, and Stamets and Jet Reno are
looking on in horror.
Looking on in horror, and it's unbelievable. And it's such a crazy moment to close the episode out with, especially considering moments before, as the cocoon is forming, it forms. Tilly is outside of it, and all the spores are released into the air in the room, and they all get high off of it.
Yeah, that's a great sequence. It's amazing.
They start hallucinating, and it's like they put the Snapchat filter on top of it.
Yeah, no, you start seeing things fluctuate. Their irises are getting crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a fun moment, and it's Jet Reno and Stamets and their snarkiness and their attitude towards each other, and Stamets is like, oh, hurry up, slap me, and Jet Reno just slaps him like, of course, nothing, just knocks him down. But it gets them straight enough in order to counter the psilocybin effects. I think I'm saying that right. They manage to come down off their high, and then they realize that Tilly's missing, and she's inside the cocoon.
Right. Yeah, it's a solid way to end the episode, and this episode is absolutely crucial. I mean, it sets up basically the rest of the season, because this sphere data that's now been transferred to Discovery, like, that's the new MacGuffin. That's the thing that everyone's trying to get like a handle of, a hold of, or destroy for the rest of the season. And it's still on the ship when they're going into season 3. So like, who knows what role it could play in Discovery and the Federation's future. Like they're traveling to a future Federation that's perhaps lost a lot of its institutional, knowledge and technology, having kind of fallen into disrepair. And here's this wealth of knowledge from the past that who knows what could come of that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it. Yeah, the sphere. Star Trek loves a giant, mysterious sphere. Going back to even the original series with the Corbomite maneuver, you've got that giant sphere in front of the Enterprise, piloted by Balok, and you got the Dyson sphere in Next Gen. You have the sphere builders in Enterprise. Star Trek loves a mysterious sphere.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme throughout the show, and I think the sphere is one of those. It's one of those natural shapes that are formed. So it's not unlikely that future human explorers will find, whether, they're semi-organic, carrying petabytes worth of data and knowledge from traveling around the universe, or they, discover Dyson spheres, or, the first Federation. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
a cool note. One thing that I have thought about is the brain drain in Starfleet. And the reason I bring this up is because the Spirit data is transferred to Discovery, right? And one thing I couldn't help but think of is now, of course, it's a TV show and it has to move at the speed of plot. But the Enterprise is in dry dock getting a massive overhaul and repairs, right?
Right.
And they're out of the picture. They just came off of the Klingon War. So there are, it's a massive loss of admirals, captains, starships, crew members, an entire generation of Starfleet crew members grew up with the Klingon War. They might be a little antsy, a little tired that, they've lost loved ones, and Discovery has gone through so much in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And, here they are tasked with discovering these 7 signals. They're the only ship right now that can handle it. Pike is on board. He's leading them on this mission. And then you have, and we'll get into it in a little bit, but then you have Section 31, right? And these are clandestine, Starfleet officers. They transferred from different ships, and they're from all different walks of life, but they all kind of walk a little gray area with everything that's been going on. And I couldn't help but think, where are the other ships in the fleet? What are they doing? How come Discovery has to handle the Sphere data all by itself? Why wouldn't Pike immediately pick up the phone and be like, hey, listen, we have all this data. We need a science vessel over here right now to process everything.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit odd that once they get all of that data, they're still in this very much kind of go it alone mentality. At that point, it doesn't seem entirely necessary yet. Obviously, eventually, we realize they have to be on their own. But at this point, it doesn't seem that clear to me. I'm guessing maybe the really mysterious, maybe potentially classified nature of the mission probably has something to do with it. That's kind of the easy hand wavy thing of, well, it was all classified. We could, it was bad enough we had to give 2 ships full information on what was going on. We can't afford any more to know.
Right. And, they're coming right off the Klingon War, so a lot of vessels are very likely
going on.
Yeah, they're moving different colonists around. They're trying to repopulate different worlds. They're trying to rebuild their fleet. A lot of the engineering teams are probably tied up, right at dry dock. So there's plenty of story surrounding it. But it's one of those classic Star Trek things. It's it's the only ship in the universe?
Yep. It's the lonely ship problem. You've got this one ship, and apparently it's the only one that can solve all of these problems.
That's right. The only ship in the fleet, right?
Only ship in the might as well be. It's the only one we care about. It's the only one on TV right now.
And it's the only one that can travel the mycelial network, which brings us to...
That's the big thing. I mean, in terms of a tactical advantage, that's the one thing that no other ship that they could conceivably recruit to their efforts. There's, they can't get to New Eden.
Yeah.
Or Elysium, rather.
Exactly. Saints of Imperfection is episode 5, and this deals with the mycelial network, and we learn that much like our present day environment, it needs to be cared for and treated properly in order for it to survive. And the use of the network in the way that Discovery has been using it is actually damaging the network. And Tilly wakes up inside the mycelial network with her friend May. And this is where we learn that May, she's been promising Tilly that I have plans for you, which is really kind of creepy. And I swear, I think some of these writers, I think they used to write some horror, because there's definitely,
right.
Even season 1, there's some.
Yeah, the episode where they beam over to their sister ship.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
There are definite moments where, it's dark, it's foreboding, it's got all the elements of a horror show.
Yeah.
And when Tilly wakes up with May, we learn that May is, this is her home. Discovery has been damaging it, and now there's a monster who is tearing the network apart, and the monster is stuck inside the mycelial network, and she wants Tilly to help her out. So, in the meantime, Stamets and Burnham and Reno, they're back aboard the Discovery. They figure out that Tilly has gone through this cocoon and she's in the network and we need to get her out. So they engineer a way to bring the Discovery into the network, but hold it and not go through it. So the Discovery gets kind of lodged inside the mycelial network long enough for them to go on a nice little fun away mission, rescue Tilly, bring her back. And
it's time for today's Lucky Land horoscope with Victoria Cash. Life's gotten mundane, so shake up the daily routine and be adventurous with a trip to Lucky Land. You know what they say, your chance to win starts with a spin. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com to play over 100 social casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
And this led to, I think, has to be my favorite starship sequence in the show. When Discovery jumps and then lodges itself in space, halfway between. Oh, so cool, man.
It's bonkers what they can do with a VFX budget like this. I mean, I don't know exactly what these episodes cost per. I think it's like 10-ish million per, but like
8 to 10 million. Yeah.
It's on the screen. You can tell. It's amazing.
Yep. They don't waste a penny of it.
Absolutely not. This is so pretty. It's so pretty. And it's great because you have these wild sci-fi concepts that aren't just going to be relegated to the animated series. You have these things you can actually visualize that you could never come close to visualizing believably before.
Yeah, and it brings to light another piece of Star Trek technology that we always take for granted, the tractor beam. While the Discovery is lodged in between the network and the real universe, it's undergoing a lot of duress at this point. The starship is being eaten by the mycelial spores, and the network itself is going to eat at it and just, tear apart the hull. It's not supposed to be where it is. It's supposed to go through it, not stay there. So another starship, a Section 31 ship, shows up, and they provide an assist to the Discovery in the form of a tractor beam. And we see 3 separate anchors deploy and attach themselves to the ship. And then you see the tractor beam ignite. And it was such a cool visual sequence to show the technology in action, not just be like, here's a beam of light, we're now towing you. Like, no, there are actual systems in place that require a physical connection.
Yeah, for sure. And Discovery's done a lot of that sort of stuff this season, maybe in season 1 too, but I noticed a couple of opportunities this season that they took to show like the repair bots at work, and like in episode 1, like the cameras, like they're just cameras. It's non-weapon technical equipment, but like they give us a nice shot of that technical equipment doing its job. And I love that stuff. I love those details that they're able to provide now visually for stuff that we just kind of assumed were going on in the background. Now we can actually see it.
Yeah. They take the canon seriously, and they thought about proper responses to what the canon shows. So it's not just saying, here's a beam of light, it's just going to react and it's going to do its thing, just hand wave it away. No, here's how it works.
Yeah.
Pure Star Trek through and through. If you hate it, then I don't know what to tell you.
Right. I don't think I asked you. What do you think of the Section 31 ship, by the way? We've seen it a couple of times now.
Yes.
More action this time. What do you think about it? Do we know what class it is? Does it have a...
we don't know that it has a class. Perhaps,
I don't think it has a name either. I think it's just got a number.
Yeah, it does. Man, it registers so quick, but they show a shot of the number on the hull, and it's not even like a name or designation. I think it's NU something,
Yeah, it's just numbers. A serial number, basically.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it's cool. It's not like anything we've seen before.
Yeah. It's a very unique design. It does kind of hail a little bit like a very sleek, angled version of the Oberth class.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So it definitely strikes me as something definitely designed for war. Like it's not meant to do anything other than get into a place, hide, blow some stuff up, and get out. Like that's
right. These are not your friends.
yeah, they are clearly.
This is not the ship you see when you're making friends with the Federation. These are the ships you don't see, most likely. That are doing profoundly unfriendly things, presumably.
Or they're the last ships you see.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
But we do learn that there are there is a fleet of Section 31 ships. They are all identical.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably they're all outfitted, exactly the same. A couple of shuttle bays, sensor bed arrays, cloaking device, refractive shielding, and they have multiple drones that can attach and detach from the hull for various, presumably sensor and generally sensor work, but can be repurposed for military needs,
as we might see later.
Oh yeah. But it was a cool design, the nacelles coming off the aft.
Yeah, I always love a nacelle that can move like Voyager.
Ooh, I didn't even think of that. That's a good catch. So Section 31, they come into play here in a big way. They bail out the Discovery, and they allow it. They give more time for the away team in the mycelial network to find Tilly. And Tilly is with May, and they are searching throughout the mycelial network. And what's interesting, and something that hadn't really been addressed before, is when the Discovery passes through the network, apparently there's nobody there. And what I mean by that is we see through Tilly's eyes as they're on the ship that there are no crew members, and the ship is falling apart. It's broken. It seems stuck, like adrift almost inside the network. But we know for a fact that in the real universe, there are people there. Now, granted, they did clear the decks that were going to be involved inside the mycelial network. So they, the crew took time to remove themselves from those areas. But it still gives this impression that it's a ghost ship.
Yeah.
So when Tilly and May rendezvous with Michael Burnham and Stamets and Tyler, by the way, Ash Tyler is back, and he went with them on this away mission. So they're all there, they rendezvous, and they find this monster. He's screaming down the hall. You can hear him. He sounds like he's in pain. So they go off after him, and we run into none other than Dr. Hugh Culber, who died in season 1.
Yeah, we've got new Hugh. It's pretty remarkable. My understanding, I think, if I understand kind of what they explained about the science of what's going on in the episode, is he's essentially been this is essentially kind of like an organic transporter, right? That they've used to get into like the thing that Tilly was transported to into the into the mycelial network. It's more or less an organic transporter. So he's sort of been caught in this pattern buffer of this organic transporter system, and it's a really interesting notion. And it's not the first time that Star Trek has sort of brought back a character from the dead, but this was the sort of, I think, the biggest length they went to sort of craft an arc of episodes around kind of the retrieval, the return of this character was interesting and compelling.
Yeah, it's a really good way to bring him back.
It had weight. It didn't feel like they were waving their hands. It just like they went through a lot of work to make it happen, and then we see the after effects.
Yeah, and there's some interesting, and again, the duality of Discovery comes back, which is the recurring theme throughout the show. New Hugh now, he's an organic being. He's back. He has all his memories, but we find out that he doesn't have the feelings. He doesn't have the senses that were connected to those feelings. He's got the memories of them, but the memories don't mean anything to him because they're not attached to the feelings that he had. So it's a really interesting play on bringing back the dead. You know, like you reanimate the body. He's missing the scar that he had gotten when he was like cliff jumping, which is what we discover in sickbay when they bring him back to be examined. He's missing a scar. And that's our first clue that this is a brand new Hugh.
Yeah, for sure. In very literal, physical ways that he has to come to terms with. I mean, his whole sense of self has been really disrupted by this whole experience, as how could it not be?
Yeah.
You know, like in many, you know, for whatever these words mean, he shouldn't be here, you know, but for this extraordinary set of circumstances and extraordinary effort, he wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And he's got to reconcile that. You know, he died. He remembers dying. It's got to be a total mindfuck for him.
Oh man, and then, you know, couple that with Stamets, his partner. You know, they share living quarters together. They shared a life together.
Yeah.
And the recurring theme throughout the season following this episode is the two of them trying to reconnect. Their failure to do so until the break later on. So it's a great. It's a more evolved Star Trek take on the reanimation of a character.
Yeah.
And it's not just hand-waving, bringing them back from the dead. There is a consequence to bringing them back.
Yeah. And, you know, like, you know, to draw a parallel to, like, Scotty being stuck in the pattern buffer and being brought back to life, you know, more or less. He intervened technologically to save his life, and he succeeded, and then he was brought back to life after many years, caught in this pattern buffer. And, you know, as lovely as much of that episode is, it's, you know, there's not really a deep exploration of, like, am I still the same person? Really nobody who uses a transporter asks that question. It's sort of, you know, presumably it was asked when transporters were invented, and people kind of moved past it now. But yeah, it's interesting, this sort of new, much more kind of wet, mushy, biological, you know, sort of transporter buffer experience that he must have gone through. You know, there's a different element to it. You know, he comes back to Stamets and he remembers in the abstract that he was in love with this person, and he can probably remember holding this person's hand, but he can hold this person's hand and it feels like a stranger's hands.
Yeah, because it is.
Yeah, to him it is.
Yeah, great work examining the self. I think there must have been a number of philosophers on that writing team.
Yeah, it's hard not to see the connective tissue to, you know, that classic sci-fi. You know, this is a classic sci-fi conceit. The idea of, you know, the body being, you know, returned to life through technological, you know, not necessarily hand-wavery, but hand-wavery. And then dealing with the consequences of that in an interesting way.
The Sound of Thunder is episode 6. This is one of my favorite episodes of the season. This is where Saru comes into his own. So he survived losing his threat ganglia through a process known as the Vihari. Kelpians were raised as prey, so they always had this sense of fear and caution. And even though Saru became a Starfleet officer and rose through the ranks, you know, very admirably, he still had this like, hold on, I don't know if we should kind of do that kind of a feel to him. He was always holding back. And when he lost the ganglia, and he went through this period of evolution called the Vihari, when they encountered the orb, he became a new self, and he lost that fear, and he became more confident and more certain. And when a signal appears above Saru's homeworld of Kaminar, then the Discovery leaps into action. They go to Kaminar, and Saru is front and center. This is a Saru-heavy episode. We get to meet his sister down on the planet. We get to learn more about the mysterious species called the Baul, who are kind of, I'm just going to say, they're harvesting the Kelpians.
Yeah.
And it's more Oh man, one of the things, again, I'm telling you, some of these writers worked on horror, because when we meet the Baul for the first time, it is creepy.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of Skin of Evil time, just like this rising black form out of the viscous fluid over here. It's hard to believe. I know you haven't touched on this plot point yet. It's hard to imagine these ever being prey. They do not look like anywhere in their evolutionary past they were prey at any point ever.
Yep.
They look straight out of a horror movie.
So to get to that point, while Saru and Burnham are down on the planet's surface, Tilly is working with Lieutenant Ariam, who is the augmented cybernetic crew member of the Discovery. They're working on the Spear information on Kaminar to learn, whatever they can about the planet, to learn more about Saru's species, to learn more about the Baul. The Baul are clearly hostile when the Discovery shows up. They immediately send these sentries over to the Discovery to prevent it from doing anything. This is after the Discovery has beamed Saru down to the surface. Saru returns to the Discovery, and the Baul are pretty pissed about it. They're like, okay, you've already interrupted with our planet, our evolution. You said you weren't going to. Now you are. Clearly, you're breaking our contract here. We want the Kelpian back. You stole him from us. It's a very disturbing thing. And the catalyst to getting Saru to beam back down to the surface and to be taken by the Baul power up these giant pyres that they have in each of the Kelpians' villages, and these sentry devices, these pyres that they have, are going to basically wipe out the Kelpians altogether and just completely demolish them. So kind of makes you wonder, like, well, if, the Baul could do that the whole time and they don't need them, then why are they keeping them? And at the same time, it's like, okay, well,
Yeah, it's a little unclear exactly how the dynamics of the two species have evolved, for lack of a better word, to this point, and what exactly they're getting out of harvesting the Kelpians. I'm still not really sure, even after this episode, exactly what the Baul are doing in its entirety with all the or what their sort of grand plan for the I don't sort of get what their deal is entirely. The Baul, that is.
Well,
I get why they don't want the Kelpians to.
Right.
I get why they don't want them to, essentially reach puberty and become these prey species again. But like, it just seems the whole.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from, with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Setup seems a little unclear to me from the sort of Baul's perspective of like kind of what their long-term goals are here.
Well, in my opinion, it was just the Baul were just kind of keeping their thumb on them altogether as a form of retribution.
It just doesn't seem clear about, to your point, like if they would have been okay with wiping them off the face of the planet anyway, it does sort of raise the question of like, why were they keeping a small population on the planet for an extended period of time? This is, we're led to believe, at least centuries, if not longer, that this system has been in place. And it's never
the
really
great balance. The great balance.
The great balance. Yep. Right. Yeah.
The great balance. Sounds like a shoe. The Vahari Kelpians, when they go through that process, they lose their ganglia. They become more confident and assured, and very dominant. And the Baul were once the prey species of this planet, and the power dynamics were in favor of the Kelpians. So, at some point, thousands of years ago in the history of Kaminar, these two species, there was a paradigm shift, and the Baul suddenly became the dominant species and held the Kelpians down via their evolutionary process. So every time one of these Kelpians would begin to enter the Vahari, a Baul would sweep down and say, "Nope, you're coming
Yoink,
with us.
you're out of here."
So, hopefully, you want to think that, they just took them up to a farm and let them loose to play along with all the other Kelpians, but I don't think that's the case. Saru sacrifices himself to the Baul. He goes aboard. He's captured along with his sister, Sarana. And while they are in their little cage, the Baul reveals themselves to them and to the audience for the first time. And like you said, they're this black ink tar-like creature that just floats above. And it reminded me very much of like some early H.R. Geiger designs from Alien.
Yeah, for sure. It's a creepy design through and through. It literally is just meant to evoke horror and revulsion, it seems.
Yes. Yeah, well, they definitely accomplished that. Through a series of very cool effects, we see Saru kind of come into his own, and what originally he had these threat ganglia. Now what comes down from where his ganglia was are these spikes, and they hone in on the Baul and they shoot off at the Baul. The Baul is safe because he's got this energy field protecting him, but still a very cool moment of like, oh, okay, so these Kelpians are serious. They've got some serious, predator tendencies. They have their own ways, that they can fight back. So super strength also, because Saru just rips down one of those shackles that was holding him to the wall.
Yeah.
Tears it down. He rescues Sarana. They repurpose. He's able to repurpose some of the technology that the Bull had, and him and Sarana are basically saved by the Red Angel then coming down, because the Baul at this point, they fire off all those fires. They're getting ready to nuke it, and Captain Pike has learned that the Vahari can be what's the word? Triggered, thank you. It can be triggered by piggybacking off that signal.
Right.
So they institute the Vahari, allowing all Kelpians on the planet to go through their evolutionary phase. Red Angel shows up, big EMP pulse, completely disables all the Baul technology, and returns the power dynamic into the hands of the Kelpians.
Right. Yeah, and the episode touches on, there's a few classic Star Trek moments. I love when Michael Burnham meets Sarana for the first time, and she looks at her hand, and she says, so different, and yet, and she just trails off, and it's this wonderful like just a little moment that encapsulates so much about what these shows are about. And there's themes of like religious indoctrination, and whether or not when it's acceptable to intervene, when genocide is on the table. It's again like really dialed into these themes in Star Trek that are explored again and again.
Yeah. Saru's sister is called a priestess. So again, more thematic religion involved.
Yeah.
And Saru. So what's interesting about the Kelpians, they are incredibly intelligent, and yet they hold themselves back as a result of the Baul, and they're not allowed to progress. So once they do, and they see the truth, and they learn about their past, they're able to evolve at such a quick pace.
Yeah, and it's the hope that, especially with the aid of something like the Federation, that when they do have the opportunity to sort of become ascendants and no longer be this oppressed minority species on this planet anymore, that they won't just go ahead and wipe out the Baul. We are left with this hope that in the intervening centuries and millennia, they've also evolved too, even if they haven't necessarily been allowed to through their normal biological process in all this time.
Right. Okay, Light and Shadows is episode number 7. So in this episode, Discovery is hit by this time anomaly while researching the Red Angel signal over Kaminar. In order to investigate this anomaly, Pike decides he's going to take a shuttle and go do this by himself. Tyler says, "No way, Jose, I'm coming with you." So they wind up going together. They didn't actually say that, by the way. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
Yeah. They go together, and they launch a probe into the anomaly. What's really interesting about this is we see the wave, like shockwave effects, coming from the anomaly, and Pike can see himself both in the past and in the future. So there's echoes, time echoes. And I say that because one of my favorite lines in the episode from Tilly, she's like, "Oh yeah, it just sounds cooler when you put time in front of it."
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's like a time, I think she said like a time tsunami at one point. She's like, "I don't really like how that sounds," but it's great. Again, some really cool moments with the technology here. We see a probe. They always say, I love it. Every starship seems to have an infinite supply of probes at the ready to launch into anything. And these probes can be configured to do damn near anything. Anything from repairing another ship to, sending out a subspace relay station, back all the way to the home planet of wherever they're trying to get to. These probes are kind of the catch-all when Star Trek needs to have something to happen.
Oh, yeah. So, launch a whatever class probe. Of course.
That's it.
Classic.
Yeah, beautiful. And I kind of like the trope subversion here, where they launch the probe, and then it comes back to them. And
it sure does.
The probe comes back to them, and it becomes a scary technological squid monster robot probe, which attaches itself to the shuttle, and it's like ripping through, and it's got every single one of its tendrils just flying around the shuttle, trying to rip into it. We see the door slam shut on the shuttle over the cockpit glass. I thought that was really cool. It kind of showed like these shuttles aren't paper thin walls, like they're kind of
they're substantial.
Yeah. So with Stamets' help, they are able to get the shuttle back to Discovery, and it's a whole process. A lot of cool science involved, some math. We see a great argument between Pike and Tyler, and this is where they start to finally, because beforehand they were definitely fighting each other. They were button heads. There was tension on the bridge. Ash Tyler is an agent of Section 31. Pike didn't want him there. Just bad news all around. And they finally have an opportunity to kind of shake hands.
Yeah. It's, Ash is basically presented as the first, maybe only character that Pike just kind of has a bad vibe about. Like, he doesn't really trust him. He seems like a pretty trusting, open guy. And then with Ash, he's just kind of like, something's not quite right with you.
Yeah.
And he earns his trust over the course of the episode. And it gets tested again later in the season, but it's the beginning of the turn in their relationship, and it's really well done.
Yeah, agree. There's a great moment between them back on the bridge of Discovery, and Pike kind of looks up at him and just says he's grateful. And if there's one thing that I've learned in my personal life is when you share like your true heartfelt self with someone, it goes a long way to just repairing a bridge. It rebuilds it entirely. And in that moment, you could see Pike, sharing his heartfelt self with Tyler. Like, I am grateful for you. And it's an important moment.
For sure.
Meanwhile, we got to get to Michael Burnham. She finds Spock. She finds Spock where? Of all places, on Vulcan.
Right. Yeah, Amanda brought him home. We haven't really talked about Amanda at all, but...
We haven't, yeah. But she's been in the background.
Yeah, she pops up a few times in this season, quite a bit more than she did in season 1, and she finds Spock and brings him home. and Michael finds him there.
Yeah. So back in episode 3, Amanda Grayson, Spock's mother, and Michael's adopted mother, she comes to the Discovery with the medical records from Starbase 5, where Spock was being held. Basically, Burnham said, we can't really do anything at this point in time. And Amanda Grayson storms off. She's like, well, I'm going to go find him myself. And she did.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of love that Star Trek gave it to her and was like, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah, it was another one of those, sort of not quite a misdirect, but, we're essentially in pursuit of Spock for these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, lo and behold, someone else found him off screen, and there he is hiding in a basement on Vulcan. Away from Sarek.
Away from Sarek, yeah. Which is, we definitely got to touch on that a little bit. So we find Spock, and Burnham finds him, and he's under crazy psychological stress. He's repeating phrases, he's repeating numbers, he's carving into the cavern walls. Clearly, he is not mentally right. And Amanda didn't want him to be caught by Starfleet, didn't want to admit him into any hospital because she knows that, number one, Spock is accused of murdering, medical personnel. It was doctored footage. It happened, but it wasn't Spock who killed the medical personnel. And she doesn't want to turn him over.
Right.
He's got to get right. He's got to get sane first. And who can help him do that? Michael Burnham. So Sarek shows up. He finds them down in the caverns. And what's interesting is this is where we first hear about the Katra in Discovery. And well, not the first time, but the Katra caverns. And we learn that Sarek has the most disciplined mind of all Vulcan. So he can't penetrate this cavern. He can't find Spock's connection telepathically. He's been searching for him telepathically. He's been looking out into the universe for him. Turns out Spock was right below his feet the whole time.
Right. Thanks, man.
Yeah. And I like the touch to the voyage home a little bit, and the search for Spock when they bring Spock home back to Vulcan to have his Katra restored.
Yeah, to fix his brain and his Vulcan soul, for lack of a better term.
And it restores him. And I like how, without really intending to, or maybe they did intend to, they brought it full circle a little bit. They gave you the beginning of that story. Yeah. So the Katra is clearly extraordinarily important. It is the mind, it's the consciousness, it's the soul of a Vulcan. So Sarek, at this point, he has to get Burnham to take Spock to Section 31. This is the only way it can happen, and there's no other way through this. So Burnham, she says, okay, I'm going to believe you, Sarek. I'm going to take Spock to Section 31 to help fix his mind. Section 31's doctors claim that they're going to help him. They're going to make him right. They're going to fix his mind. But Philippa Georgiou pulls Michael aside on the Section 31 ship and says, nah, son, it ain't happening.
They're all a
like
bunch
that.
of lying liars.
Yeah, they are going to rip his mind apart. Don't believe a word that they say. And here comes another one of my favorite scenes in the show. They just have a great big fight in the middle of a hallway. Georgiou disables the cameras, and she pulls Michael aside. She's like, listen, we have 60 seconds before the camera turns back on. You have to beat me up. You have to get Spock and get out of here.
Yeah, it's great. Classic breakout situation. Good stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good prison breakout.
Right.
So the fight itself is really cool. You can tell that Burnham has just been saving this up. She's been...
Yeah.
Because as soon as Georgiou says, okay, now hit me, Burnham's like, okay, boom.
Okay. No, don't have to tell me twice.
Yep. It's a great fight. It's a great moment. And Georgiou helps break out Spock and lets Michael get away. Yeah. And she plays it off like, she got the best of me.
Right.
Oh, no big deal. She goes to Captain Leland and she's like, oh, no big deal. No big deal. I'm okay. And this is where we get more information on Captain Leland, who is the Section 31 commander of this particular branch or starship or mission, if you will. And he portrays himself as like, yeah, I'm a calm, I'm a caring Starfleet captain, and I just have to do this job because no one else will.
Yeah. He it's a little hard to get a read on him because we don't really get to know much about him proper, like the actual Leland before the turn. But yeah, it's clear that Georgiou has zero respect for him. She doesn't care about, she's got her own agenda, she's got her own plans going on, and entirely divorced of Leland's agenda, and she could care less. It's interesting. You do kind of get a sense, especially.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Prescription products require completion of an online medication consultation with an independent healthcare provider through the LifeMD platform and are only available if prescribed. Subscription required. Individual results may vary. Additional restrictions apply at LifeMD.com. Read all warnings before using GLP-1s. Side effects may include a risk of thyroid C-cell tumors. Do not use GLP-1s if you or your family have a history of thyroid cancer.
If you've struggled for years to lose weight and have given up hope, did you know you can now access GLP-1 prescription medications through LifeMD? LifeMD is now offering eligible patients online access to GLP-1s, the breakthrough prescription medication that can help you lose body fat and weight. Listen to what people are saying.
Probably the easiest thing I've ever done. The medication comes in the mail, and it's very easy to use. I've been able to live my normal lifestyle, and I've lost 20 pounds already, and I've never felt better. It changed my life.
And here's the best part. Your insurance may cover 100% of the cost of your medication. So go to TryLifeMD.com to have your eligibility checked right now. Get started today at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.
And I don't know if it's the next one or the one after that, but later before the turn, you get a sense from Saru actually that Leland is a person who, while he operates on this morally questionable sort of level, he does believe that he's acting in the best interest of the Federation and humanity as a whole. Whatever shitty things he's willing to do in the pursuit of those, that agenda, he's a Section 31 guy. He's there for a reason. I can't imagine you become the captain of a Section 31 ship by having a spotless record and great interpersonal skills.
Yeah, they're not exactly in good with HR.
Yeah, these aren't diplomats.
No. One thing I thought about as we're talking, and it just occurred to me. Philippa Georgiou is such a compelling character throughout this season. And I think it's because she plays it straight. She plays like the Empress herself is being herself through everything. And I think that's why she has zero respect for Leland, because Leland is always playing a game. He's always, on the edge. He's always got a hidden motive and an agenda. And this is why she doesn't trust the admirals who are in charge of, quote unquote, control, who we'll learn about in a little bit. Because she doesn't like all this backhandedness. She's upfront with her brutality.
She is. She's, again, sort of an odd choice for a covert operation. Given her sort of straightforward attitude. She kind of doesn't like to play the game. She doesn't like these games. She thinks they're stupid. She has very little patience for him. And she has a lot of outright disgust expressed for Leland when he tries to, get her to do things for him, like later in the season. Like, she just has zero respect for this guy.
Yep. And throughout this whole thing, she's genuinely interested in where they're going. Like, she wants to know, like, what is this power? What is this thing that I don't know that I need to know about? And I have to wonder, is it to take control of that power? Is it to grasp at it? I wonder if it's that kind of a thing, or if it's some natural curiosity. Because there are a few moments later on in the season that make you think that, Giorgio, yeah, she's genocidal maniac, but she's all right.
Yeah,
She's all right.
it's definitely little column A, little column B, no
Little
doubt.
column A.
Like she has both of these. She's a person. She has she has a complex set of motivations. There's definitely both of those things going on. That thread of kind of baseline curiosity runs through her relationship with at least her version of Burnham and how that colors her relationship with Burnham. That carries through as part of the stew that makes up her motivations. And then she wants power. She's still kind of a monster.
yeah She's still out there. So the next episode is definitely my favorite of this season, if memory serves. Now, before we begin breaking this episode down a little bit and talking about it, when it first aired, my wife was watching with me, and when it first aired, she turned to me and she goes, "This isn't it. You pressed the wrong thing. It's supposed to be Star Trek Discovery. Right. What are we watching? This is clearly from the 1960s." She goes,
"What is this nonsense?"
Yeah, she's like, "Put the other one back on. Put the other one back on." I was like, "What are you talking? I didn't do anything. This is it. We gotta watch. So, oh man, I got crazy chills watching this episode. Do you want to talk about how it opened?
Yeah, I mean, the Menagerie was one of the kind of very early, that's one of the earliest episodes that really lodged itself in my memory from the original series. So when this episode opens with essentially the beginning of, the cage, the episode that was kind of Russian nesting doll inside the Menagerie, you see the opening of the cage and you go into the Enterprise and you see, I'm blanking on the actor's name.
Jeffrey Hunter.
Thank you, God. Who played Pike, and you're just in the episode, and then you get this flash montage of the events of the cage, and then you go smack bam right into Pike present day, and they got to go to Talos. It's great.
How they did that was just previously on Star Trek, and then immediately cut to the original footage of the pilot, and then
music and the whole vibe. It was for a TOS fan. It was just perfect.
Yeah, I also grew up on TOS, so it was recognizing sights, the sounds, and then when the camera pans over Jeffrey Hunter's face and then the slow dissolve to Anson Mount.
Yeah.
That was so beautifully done. Beautiful homage to the original series and bringing in, modern day audiences to be like, that was before, this happened in the past, and this is happening now, both literally and on the show figuratively.
Yeah, and they do, they give you little glimpses of the blue singing plants, which, hey, you're going to see those later. And here's some Telosians, which, hey, you're going to see those later.
Yep.
It just sets up these things so that then you don't really have to go into an in-depth explanation. The episode can just happen.
Right. It's brilliant touch on the showrunner's part to include that original footage and to just accept that viewers would accept it, as opposed to trying to explain it away.
It's such wonderful fan service. I mean, really wonderful fan service.
It's so well done. I got chills watching it again. When I was rewatching, I had to set everything aside and just watch. I loved it. Definitely hands down my favorite episode. So if memory serves, Burnham has rescued Spock from Section 31. And at this point in time, Spock has been giving these random series of numbers, seemingly random. And she realizes through their mutual love of Alice in Wonderland, which Amanda Brayson would read to them, she figures out that Spock is speaking in code almost. So in Alice in Wonderland, the mirror, the looking glass, plays a big role.
Right.
So she figures, what if I invert the numbers as if it was a mirror? So she inverts the numbers, asks the computer to run those numbers. Turns out there are a set of coordinates for Talos 4. Which is where Captain Pike had originally encountered the Telosians and went through that very critical series of time. So Burnham and Spock arrive secretly to Talos 4, and in order to heal Spock, Burnham has to give away something. There's always an exchange of some sort. And I guess it's important to mention that Starfleet has banned all visits to Talos 4. And there is a defense set up around the planet in the form of an illusion. And the illusion is a massive black hole.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest visual sequences of the season occurs with this black hole. And you would think like, oh, yeah, of course it's a black hole. But that is scientifically accurate.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, very reminiscent of the one in Interstellar. You have that accretion disk, and it looks spectacular. And what a wonderful way to visualize how this culture can defend itself when they're not well armed.
Yeah. And they mention in the episode, the Telosians, all they have are illusions to defend themselves. So the Telosians are here to heal Spock's mind. And in order to do so, they need Burnham to give them a memory. And they want to know what emotionally scarred Spock, what happened in their childhood. What was that defining moment of their relationship that split them? Because, Burnham never mentions Spock, and Spock never mentions Burnham. Why is that? And it turns out that there was a big rift between them. So we do learn that what that is later on at the end of the episode. Spock has his mind being torn apart by both logic and emotion at this point. And the Telosians reveal what it is that did this. And it turns out that Spock had done a mind meld with the Red Angel. And we learn that the Red Angel is a time traveler who is coming back from the future to help avert some kind of great catastrophe that afflicts the universe. And we see images of Vulcan, Andoria, Kronos, and Earth being destroyed by these machines. So we can presume that it's some technological fate that awaits the universe in the future. And the time traveler is trying to save that. And she is somehow connected with Spock. For whatever reason, she's approached Spock. And Spock can't reconcile what he knows. And the Telosians say that Spock is experiencing time as a fluid rather than a linear construct. So his rational, logical mind can't figure it out. And his emotions surrounding it are, just torn apart. So that's why the Telosians say, oh, we need this memory. We need it because it will help us repair Spock. So they are able to do so. They repair Spock. Burnham hands over her memory. And it's this extremely emotional scene where Burnham is running to get away from Spock. And they're kids. They're 11, 8, I think, is their ages, give or take. But they're kids. And as she's running, she's upset. Vulcans aren't accepting her. She's a human living under Sarek's roof. Spock is a half human, half Vulcan. And it's an emotional moment where Burnham turns to Spock and says, no, don't follow me. Don't come with me. You have to stay home. I'm endangering you. Spock says, oh, but I love you. I love you. I want to be with you. You're my sister. Let's, we can fix this. Burnham says, nope, can't, and basically insults him and, calls him a little half-breed. And
it's brutal.
It's a
that scene is
moment.
Absolutely brutal. And it is rough to watch that cute little, baby Spock.
Let's, who casted baby Spock? Because I would like to both shake their hands and also, shake them.
Yeah. The baby Spock is maybe not as cute as Baby Yoda, but the eyebrow game is on point.
Man,
Baby Spock is super cute.
He's got the baby cheeks and everything. It's it's
just
such a moment.
Crushes him.
Yeah, crushes him. Even any regular human being with feelings is automatically crushed by these words. It's the rejection of someone close to you that you thought was your best friend, your closest confidant.
It's the worst thing he could have heard from anyone really at that point.
And the scene is shot in such a way where it's a memory. Michael and Spock are reliving this memory in the present, but the viewer is seeing it in the past. So we see baby Spock, we see baby Burnham, and it's spliced in with their adult selves. So as Baby Burnham, that's the phrase. Sorry. She's actually like 11, 12 years old.
Yeah, Baby Burnham, Baby Spock. It's fine.
The alliteration is fun here. So, Baby Burnham, as she's delivering these heart-crushing lines, is actually the adult Michael Burnham. And you see the sheer emotional pain in her eyes as she's reliving this memory. And then it's Baby Spock on the receiving end, but when he responds, he's adult Spock. Yeah. And you can see that he's struggling. His rational mind, his logic is trying to take control of the vast emotions he's feeling. And both Ethan Peck and Sonequa Martin Green are playing these roles outstandingly. You can see it on their faces. It's, oh man, like I was coming out of that, it's just soul crushing.
Yeah, it was a really powerful way to bring that moment to a close, because you knew, I mean, this memory had been set up really going back to like episode 3, I think, when she's talking to Amanda and she's like, no, I said something real bad, and that's why Spock hates me, and it's my fault, and I can't tell you what I told him. It's that bad.
Yeah.
And for, to give the writers credit, it lives up to the hype, so to speak. It was rough to watch.
Yeah. It's a moment. It's a moment. Meanwhile, the Telosians have also beamed isn't the right word, but telepathically projected Vina. Now, Vina is Pike's love interest in Star Trek. For those of you out there listening, I highly recommend that at this point, you just hit pause, you watch The Cage, Star Trek, the original series, pull that up, and you'll definitely understand everything. That's the only way, because if we were to get into that right now, Ian, it would be an entire episode.
Oh, yeah. No, we would be recapping an episode of a series that we're not covering right now.
So Vina arrives via telepathic projection and, alerts Pike that Spock and Burnham are in danger. They're here on Talos 4. You need to come get them. They need your help right now. So, Pike absolutely, he drops what they're doing. They proceed immediately to Talos 4. Section 31 is already on their way. They have found them. They are both in orbit. Section 31 demands that Spock and Burnham be transported to their ship. Pike says, no, we're going to bring them up here. Lock on. They drop out of warp. They lock on. They beam them up. Their pattern is stuck because Section 31 has also beamed up Michael and Spock. So now both starships have a beam lock, and one of them has to let go. So if they don't, their atoms will be scattered across the universe forever. So Pike says, okay, we're going to let go. We're going to let you have Burnham and Spock. So they beam aboard the bridge of the Section 31 ship. And meanwhile, a shuttle lands inside the Discovery shuttle bay. A very phenomenal moment where Section 31, Captain Leland, Philip Giorgio, they come down and, they try to accost Spock and Burnham on the bridge. And they're like, what do you have to say for yourselves and all this? And Michael turns and says, say goodbye, Spock. Spock turns, says, goodbye, Spock.
Goodbye, Spock.
Gives a live long and prosper sign, and they fade away. Turns out the Telosians projected an image.
Might as well be a middle finger. It's beautiful.
It's such a
It's so good. Yeah.
Goodbye, Spock.
You know it's going to happen, but it's like watching a heist movie when they're actually pulling off the heist. It's just there's something delicious about watching them actually pull this off. That's great.
Yeah. And so Spock and Burnham walk off the shuttle into Discovery, and Discovery escapes. And they become fugitives from Starfleet at this point because now they are harboring Spock, who is, supposedly accused of murder, allegedly. Yeah. So at this point, Starfleet thinks that Spock did it. He should be under arrest. We have to get him back. Something's going on. He has knowledge about the signals. He's not giving us the knowledge about the signals. This is what the whole mission is. Discovery's not completing its mission. Now they're harboring a fugitive. So now, by default, the entire ship. And that brings us to Episode 9. Project Daedalus. It's hard to say that this is a bottle episode one that you could take and just watch separately, but it kind of presents itself as one in terms of the season. Lieutenant Commander Arium is the cybernetic human form aboard Discovery. She's been augmented, and we learn a little bit more about her personally. Turns out that she is, in fact, fully human, and she's been augmented with cybernetic implants. How this gets away from the genetic modification ban following World War III is kind of a gray area. But as we learned with the Klingon War, Starfleet overlooked what Stamets had done in terms of modifying his own DNA with the tardigrade.
Sure.
All for the war effort. And Arium doesn't have vast infinite memory storage. We're introduced to the episode with her deleting footage, and it turns out it's her memories. So she has to free up memory in her system in order to allow for new memories to be created.
Yeah, it seems like she, as a result of the injury that she suffered, I think she was in a shuttlecraft crash or something like that.
Right.
Affected her brain in such a way that she needed to have this digital memory system replace her squishy biological memory system.
Yep. So Starfleet Admiral Katrina Cornwell returns. She boards the Discovery in secret. Turns out that she got locked out of some of her command codes to Section 31's control. So she was no longer privy to certain information, and she's got her own suspicions. So while the Discovery has a sphere of data on board, Lieutenant Commander Arium is freeing up memory in her system, and now Admiral Cornwell is directing the Discovery to Section 31's headquarters. At this point, Saru has discovered that Section 31 has faked a lot of the footage using holograms. And this isn't the first time that holograms are brought up in the show. They're brought up several times, even in season 1, and much to a lot of outcry of the fan base. Hey, why are there holograms? So turns out that holograms will go by the wayside as a result of all of this, because apparently everything can be doctored. Everything can be fixed and changed and altered in such a way that to the regular scanner, it passes.
Yeah, and it isn't super clear exactly why necessarily view screens are the superior, more safe technology, especially since we have things like deep fake AI, facial replacement videos that exist now. That technology exists now. So I'm not entirely sure why the view screen versus the hologram is necessarily more secure, but it does. I like that they kind of retconned away the holographics, because I'm kind of tired of having that conversation as a Star Trek fan of why are there holograms? I never really cared. It never really bothered me. But now that they've kind of gotten rid of it, I'm fine with it. We never have to deal with it again.
The Section 31 headquarters is a old penal colony out in the middle of nowhere, and it's surrounded by mines. It's an interesting sequence where Detmer has to fly the Discovery basically blind, getting Discovery close enough to the abandoned penal colony, which is Section 31's control headquarters. The mines seem to react to the ship and almost anticipate the ship's path and to fly in front of it. Pay close attention here if you're a viewer and watch Arium. This isn't the first time. In previous episode, it turns out that Control has infected Arium, and she is actually being forced to play along and kind of guide the Discovery into these mines to destroy it, to weaken it, to bring the sphere data to Section 31. Control is behind the forgery and has been directing Section 31 to pursue Spock. And Burnham, Commander Nand, and Arium are tasked to lead an away team to go onto the Section 31 base to find out what happened. They're not reading any life signs. No systems seem to be responding. Doesn't seem like life support's working. So they beam over. Arium is tasked with restoring control to Starfleet's intended purpose, But turns out she's got the virus of control herself, so she's definitely not going to be doing that. She is instead going to be uploading the Sphere data to the control database. Tilly is on board the Discovery, and she has a moment where she realizes that she caught Ariam deleting a lot of footage from her memory banks to free up space. And from some of her interactions with Ariam previously, she starts to think maybe something's up with Ariam. Because Ariam is not responding to commands, she's uploading Sphere data and she's not disengaging. So Tilly realizes what's going on, they figure it out, they try to stop Ariam, Burnham and Nan. Nan gets knocked out, her breathing apparatus is ripped off, and she's, cuts to a scene back on the Discovery where she's offline. Come back to Burnham, she's locked in a fist fight with Ariam. Cybernetic augmentations allow Ariam to win this fight hands down. It's no contest. Luckily, they're able to take advantage of a moment. They knock Ariam into an airlock, and as Ariam is trying to get out, Tilly contacts Ariam, sends her the memory that Ariam had of them all sitting around the table, just having lunch, talking, laughing together, just being friends. And this goes back to this season really brings together those friendships and makes it a point to show them. It was really heartfelt to see Lieutenant Commander Ariam have this great moment on screen. We learned so much more about her, and then she's ripped away from us.
Yeah, it's reminiscent. I know a lot of fans drew this comparison at the time, but it was sort of reminiscent of the Lower Decks episode in TNG, where we have this episode where we kind of get a sense of this character who we hadn't really met before. I know we technically met her briefly once before, but we had a character with whom we didn't really have a lot of familiarity, who we got to know throughout the course of the episode, and then it ends with the tragic death of the character. And I think while they maybe could have built up to this a little bit more with Ariam, given the serialized nature of the show, and that they had 2 seasons to build up to or 1.5 seasons to build up to this point. That said, I think within the context of the episode, and like you said, I think it does sort of stand on its own. I think they did a pretty good job with it. I think that, nitpicks aside, it works as a self-contained experience in a story. Yeah. It's still moving, whether or not it was the best possible version of the way to do this. It still works for me.
Yeah, this episode does a lot of show, not tell, in terms of the story, progressing the story. With Ariam, deleting the footage, going through her memories, picking and choosing which ones to keep, which ones to delete.
Yeah.
Moment, the camera focusing on her eyes as they flash, as Control is infecting her with the Control virus. The scene where Tilly walks up next to Ariam, and Ariam specifically says, "Don't leave my side. Don't leave me."
Yeah,
and
she kind of sort of knows what's going on, but not really. Like, she can't tell her what's going on, but she can at least say, like, something's not quite right.
Right.
I need you to be right here and not move.
With Commander Nan, the tactical officer, she knows something's up too. She's suspicious. That's her job. She's head of security.
Sharp. I like her. Yeah. She knows what's up. She's very clearly intelligent and good at her job, as a Starfleet officer should be.
Absolutely. She's got, throughout the whole episode, she's got one eye on Ariam.
Yeah.
And if, as a viewer, if you haven't figured it out already, if you've, for whatever reason, been Facebooking or Snapchatting or Instagramming during those scenes, at this point, like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, Ariam is definitely the bad guy here.
Yeah, there's something clearly nefarious at work here.
Yeah. I really wish we had more time with Ariam, like to say. It would have been nice to see more of what she was capable of, or what her limits were, because I remember in season 1, it's like, well, is she Data? Is she positive?
Yeah, it was never really. It's a strange decision to make something so visually arresting and clearly distinct from the rest of the crew, and to not really explore it until now, and now we're done with her.
And now we're done.
It does strike me as a little bit of a missed opportunity.
It does. The episode ends with Ariam asking Michael to blow the airlock and space her, and it's repeated over and over. And she's like, if this airlock opens, I'm going to kill you. I don't want to. Like, it's making me do this. I don't want to do this. You know, please blow the airlock.
I'm gonna kill you, and then all life that's ever existed will die.
Yeah. And, you know, everyone on board the Discovery is like, do it. You got to blow the airlock, blow the airlock, blow the airlock. Again, I think, you know, this is where Star Trek kind of steps on its own foot a little bit with the transporter. You know, why couldn't they just, you know, transport her right into space? You know, they couldn't get a lock on her. I watched it and I looked for like some kind of throwaway line and it just wasn't there.
Yeah, and you sort of never know whether that's something that was written and then not shot, or that was shot and then not in the final cut. But yeah, it struck me as odd too that there wasn't at least some little bit of dialogue to sort of explain, well, why was this the exact way we had to solve this problem? Right.
That being said, Arium, you know, she's spaced. Commander Nan hits the button. You know, Michael is too distraught. You know, she doesn't want to lose her friends. You know, she's already lost so many friends. You know, and this is the last thing she could ever want. But Arium, you know, does die, reliving her favorite memory of her and her husband on the beach just before the shuttle crash. And it was a really, really sweet moment. And the episode closes there. But again, writers, have you been working on horror shows? Because there's some moments inside the Section 31 control headquarters that just
full
scream,
of dead people.
They just scream horror. Like, you know, Commander Nan has to restore gravity and environmental controls, and when she does, just bodies just fall to the floor. Boom.
Yep.
Just
smack.
The automatic doors that we love so much in Star Trek, they just automatically open when you walk up to them and automatically close behind you. Malfunctioned, and, well, they did purposefully malfunctioned, and you see Nan step over the body of someone who was dismembered in such a way. And it's gritty. Very reminiscent of that scene in Wrath of Khan, where they arrive to the Genesis base and all the scientists are
on the station and the body comes down. Yeah, when I was a little kid, that scared the shit out of me. Of course,
that scared the shit out of me too. You're like, oh god, that's horrible.
Yeah,
you know, big empty star base. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Great episode. You know, I definitely think it could be an episode in a bottle. Again, it was directed, I'm looking at this now, by Jonathan Frakes. So says something to that, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen a Frakes episode that at least not in the sort of modern era, that I disliked. I think he does a really, really good job. And his work on Picard too, same. His episodes are almost always just the most solid.
Okay, so that is part 1 of our season 2 recap. Ian, thank you for joining me. We're going to come back probably next week to do the other half. What do you think of season 2 so far?
I've really enjoyed it so far. It's not, you know, I didn't really have a set of expectations going into season 2. Whatever expectations I did have, I feel like this season has already exceeded them. Particularly the introduction of Pike and characters and I'm big time. I'm along for the ride, for sure.
Yeah, they definitely took. I feel like they wrote such a good season 1 that it was hard for them to come back and create a new story that wouldn't somehow ratchet it up a little bit. And by bringing in Pike and Spock and showing the Enterprise and bringing in number 1, it gave the show an opportunity to weave in the tale of Star Trek without hammering it in like, oh, these are your characters, you know, like, no, these are our uniforms, this is our starship, this is our story to tell. But at the same time, it paid respect to the canon.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, man. Cool. So let's catch up and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of our season 2 recap. Over the weekend, CBS dropped a trailer for the new Star Trek Lower Decks animated series. Make sure you check that out. I am personally very excited for the lighthearted comedic approach it takes. And don't hesitate to subscribe to Rarely Going, our sister podcast that will focus on that series as it unfolds. You can find that podcast also on your favorite player and on our website at www.wemadetrex.com. Thanks all.